Yes, I'll go on with you.
Am I audible? Is it clear?
Yes, you are. Yeah. So, Pal, you're starting off?
Yes, sure.
Sure.
It's
Yeah, you start. So
one
I'll
minute
take it.
to go.
Oh, I
Namaste and a warm welcome to everyone on Bloom platform. Today, it's a 225th Bloom talk show, and we have a very dynamic speaker on board, Miss Kavina Elavarasan, and along with our host, Abhijit Sanzgiri. Over to you, Abhijit, sir.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Kavina. And uh, before I start, I think any significance of the surname?
It's my dad's name,
Oh,
and
okay. That's
it
not the
means
surname.
in Tamil, it's prince.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's a Tamil name for Prince.
Yes, and most importantly, if I have to talk about the significance of my dad's name, he was named by Tamil leader. He's Periyar. For those of them from Tamil,
Oh,
roots will know Periyar, and he named my dad, and that's probably the significance. And I love my second name. Thanks for
okay,
the
okay,
mention.
okay. But ideally, I believe all South Indians are either Iyers or Iyengars, right? Most
Yes,
of them.
I'm an Naidu.
Okay, okay, okay. But most of the South Indians have that something. So, one again, what does Kavina mean?
Kavina again in Tamil means beauty.
Oh, oh, so
So I haven't
I-
thanked my mom enough. I always tell her that my gratitude to her to have named me Kavina because it's also a very unique name and it sounds very sweet. So
yes,
I
yes,
I keep
yes.
telling her a big thank you for naming me Kavina.
Okay. So we just would like to know more about your foray into communication strategy, given your background as an engineer. I think, and you are into instrumentation engineering. So, how
Yes.
come that you're still continuing with that work and still uh, doing this? So, how is that balance happening?
Absolutely. I'll just go a little bit, to my introduction. So,
Sure, sure.
as you mentioned, I'm an engineer from instrumentation and control background, and I started my career in automotive, and I've done pretty much worked on different domains in automotive engine systems and active passive safety systems and lighting. And currently, I'm working on autonomous driving. I also lead global teams on artificial intelligence, where we empower the car to drive by itself. So that's what I do. As a person responsible for people, I started coaching people as my job responsibility, and I'm so passionate about mentoring and coaching. That's when I started realizing that amazing technical experts in my team, they somehow lose out when it comes to communicating their expertise, communicating the amazing work that goes behind. And that I understood that communication becomes that key differentiator when it comes to performance of teams. And that sort of build on one about the other. And I'm right now deeply passionate about talking about communication and how it comes out as a deep differentiating skill when it comes to organization, teams, or in the world. So that's how this whole shift happened. And balancing, since it's my passion, the balancing of work and passion continues to be so in the books and every day in my diary. So that's how the passion is balanced along with the work that I do.
So, you're saying communication is a tool which maybe you felt, though people were performing well, they could not communicate how good they were performing for others to truly appreciate or respect what they are doing. So I completely resonate. There were a lot of juniors working under me in various organizations who, though they were doing very well, I think people who used to perform much lesser than them in their abilities used to get the better ratings just because they were better communicators. So
Absolutely.
even though the measured productivity was much more, I think the soft skill matters a lot.
A
Now,
lot,
has
yes.
how has your when you say you are into autonomous cars, I think when so on a slightly different topic, when would we see this in India? Because we already, I heard there are autonomous cars in US, especially in San Francisco, there are cabs which are being driven. So when would we see this in a chaotic place like India? Or maybe you're from which place? You're from
From
Hyderabad?
Bangalore,
Okay, you're from Bangalore. So
I'm in Bangalore,
where
yes.
do we, when do we see this cars moving somewhere in your, what do you call that, Brigade Road or whatever is that main road with the traffic which
Absolutely. That's $1 million question that many of us are asking, and we are evolving day by day and day to achieve that vision of a lot of automotive, pioneers to be. So, where we are standing in terms of having a car on the road is we are currently on the level 2 of autonomous driving. We have various cars which has autonomous driving. Where when it comes to not a full driving, when I say level 2, there are different levels. There are 5 levels of autonomous driving. Not really getting into the technical details. I'll spare all of
yeah,
you. But
yeah,
then telling you on the higher level, level 5 is where a person is not required. The car is going to take its own decisions and drive all of us around. Level 2, level 1 to level 4 is when we take step by step of disconnecting the driver from the car. So that's where the levels are taking us. And currently we are in level 2, which means the car is empowered enough to assist the driver in taking decisions. Like, for example, if you're in
the
the lane
climate
and
control.
you're trying to deviate the lane without putting a
Yeah,
indicator, then the
yeah,
car understands that there is a problem. You're not taking a deviation by the decision, so it drives back the car into the lane. So these kind of smaller automations that is already available in the market currently, and we are also working towards better automation where we will reach L5. We don't know yet when it is going to come, but we're definitely striving towards it in terms of the road infrastructure and the technology where we're empowering the cars to take its decision.
fine. So what you're saying is the communication, the same way what you talked about, the communication between the technology and the communication between the car is what is autonomous driving all about. And there are 5 levels. So we also have our levels in our profession on the maturity curve. So I was also working on something called the speaker maturity curve, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, where level 5 is a complete defined speaker. Now, in communication, where do we see most of the people at? Which levels would they
What I,
be? And ideally,
Thanks
they
for
should
that
be at
question.
level 5. So, like in India, we're still at level 2 in autonomous driving. I think, do we mirror the same in communication? And that's where people like you come in to strategize and help.
Absolutely. That's a very interesting question of having the levels in communication. Very interestingly, we all talk about communication, and still, all of our understanding towards communication is what to talk and how to speak fluently, how to speak without grammatical errors, and how not to have your fillers like ahs and ums. So these are what we generally talk about in communication. But what we miss out on communication is that, or what I intend to bring or sensitize as part of communication is that when we talk or communicate with another person, we are dealing with human emotions. And how do we take care, or how do we strategize our communication? Not just the mere words, but the exchange of words where we are emotionally getting involved with another person. Because any word that we are going to talk about is going to have an emotional impact on other person, right? So that's one aspect. Another aspect that we've almost forgotten as a skill in communication is to actually listen, active listening. There are various levels in in listening, but I would like to also mention that active listening is something which is very important. And we generally, when we speak about communication, we don't talk about active listening at all, and it's crucial. The third thing that I wanted to talk is about strategizing communication. While again, we all talk about how do we put words together, how do we make sentences, a lot of communication actually happens during the planning phase as to what do we talk, what words do we speak. So these are certain things that we quite often forget about communication in today's world, and that's something that I wanted to passionately drive forward in the arena of communication.
Now, I think you started by saying that communication is something so important, and I agree. It's a great soft skill, one of the greatest skills in the planet. That's what we had a mentor called Sam Cawthon who used to always say communication is the greatest skill on the planet, and I fully agree with that. And I also resonated with your statement, which you made at the start, that people are really productive, but because they cannot communicate what they have done, many a times they fail to get that recognition which they truly deserve. Now, having known this importance, why are still people ignorant about the fact that they need to upskill and upgrade? Maybe if they realize that they lack this skill, obviously they would come to you, or they would come to whoever would help them strategize, implement, execute, handhold, tell them some hacks. But why are people still, knowing that this is important, still choose to ignore?
Yes. So what I have seen around is one main important reason is that we all understand that knowledge is power in today's competitive landscape. But what is a key to unlocking that is communication. Well, we're all driven by technological advancements, AI, and everything. What gives us that wings to fly higher is actually communication. And that's something which gets missed out in today's technological disruptions that is happening. Today is AI, then is another thing which is coming. We have seen the revolution of technology which has happened. And when it is fast changing, more focus is getting into how do I learn that skill? How do I apply that skill, technological skill or the technical skill in my everyday life? And communication has been that same skill through the revolutions that we have come through. So this is one primary factor where people are so running into doing a lot of courses on technical skills, and soft skills are often taking a backseat. So this is one thing that I've seen. Even in when you look at organizations, the amount of technical skills is far greater than communication skills. There's hardly one or two communication skill program that gets run in organizations as well. So these are all coming because of one main reason. The technological disruption is very fast, and we have rapid advancements in technology. So this is one reason that I see. Second reason is also that sensitization part of communication, because quite often we all think if I can speak English fluently, which I bet all of us can, most of us from the previous generation to this generation, we all speak good or fluent English. And that alone, people think communication and they think, okay, I have reached that place and I'm going to concentrate on other skills. While sadly, that's not what communication is. Speaking, making sentences or able to communicate thoughts. What is communication able is that understanding of human emotions when you work in teams. How am I communicating without ruffling the emotions of other people? Am I actively listening? Am I listening to understand, or am I listening to respond? For leaders, it's very important the way they are communicating to their team, and it becomes that bedrock of success for leaders when they have to talk or transparently tell the decision making to the team, or in terms of building culture, in terms of giving very clear requirements so that their teams can understand and get it done. So it just happens at multiple levels. Even when we are doing a presentation, what kind of presentation is that? Are we categorizing? Is it something where you have to make an impact? Or do you want to influence? Or you want to show an authority on? So there are various factors when it comes to communication. And that's something which is not sensitized or spoken enough of. And these are the reasons why people do not concentrate much on communication. And they think there are various other skills that they will have to unlock to have their career journey forward.
So I also believe that everyone is happy in his comfort zone, and whatever is happening, he's having his bread and butter. Maybe his necessities, wants, and some part of luxuries are getting satisfied. And why should I go out of the comfort zone? So one again, the fear of public speaking is a very big fear. So the fear of basically being ridiculed or uh, being just fumbling on stage and cutting a sorry figure is something which a lot of people are afraid of.
True.
Is that coming in way
Absolutely.
of people coming to you as support to help them? So how do you basically start the strategic session to get them out of their comfort zone and the fear?
So your question is on how do we get a person out of their comfort zone
Yes,
if
yes.
they
And
have
how
that
do we
fear of.
actually get it on the table that boss, this is really important and you should be doing this to basically influence, impact, and show your authority. So see,
So the
once he
first,
comes on the table, I think then he's in the doctor's hands. That doctor will treat him. So I'm sure then we'll come to that later. How do you treat him? But how do you get the patient to really know that he has a problem which needs a treatment?
one thing that I do with my teams just to tell them that or sensitize them about communication is to actually give a very open feedback while it comes to communication. This just brings memories back from 3 years ago. We had a presentation. I presented my technical team to the management, and there were a lot of questions. And these two people who had to represent and present, they're the best in my team, and they're highly technical. They know everything about what they do and they excel at it. But when it came to presenting, and there were a lot of questions from the management, they were not able to tackle the questions. While they went and presented, the question and answer session is when it took a U-turn as to they were not able to answer. I had to pitch in. And when we came out, I had a very open conversation with the team as to understand why they were not able to take the questions. What I understood is first thing is that they were not really understanding where the person is coming from. To understand that management and the deep technical jargons, they don't go well, and they will have to make it as easy as for them to understand. Was missing, that understanding was missing. Second, not even understanding certain questions or failing to ask a reflective question as to do you mean this, was missing. So communication at various levels were missing. So when I talk to people, I understand first thing that I tell them is communication at a broader level, what we just discussed earlier, on creating impact, on creating influence and speaking with authority. So I explain it to them and tell them, make them first aware that it's beyond, and then put them through the process. So that's sensitizing is something that I do day in day out, and I do it as much as where I meet. I'm in I'm very passionate about being a part of a lot of communities. So wherever I meet people, I sensitize them that communication is not just this, but to understand the other person and give them the answers that they will understand it better as well.
Yes. So I can resonate because for a major part of my life, I used to just speak what I knew, and I used to just think bombarding them with more of my knowledge was real impactful. But I think I was sadly mistaken when I joined organizations like PCI, where I knew
Mhm.
it's for them, it's not for me. So
It's
yes,
lovely of
now.
you to say that.
Yeah, so now that people have been sensitized and they've realized that yes, they need to be more impactful in their journey and they have come maybe to you. So, how is the process? How does the process start on day one and going ahead?
Great. So now, once a person comes, let's say they would like to talk about how do they refine their communication skills further. First thing that I talk to them is to understand what is their communication style as a natural, style of speaking. Uh, so, if you have to ask me, what is my body language? Is it really wide? Is it slow? Am I a slow speaker? Do I do fast talking? Because when we talk about Kavina is very fast in her natural style. And one is to understand where you are as a natural speaker. And second thing is to explore what are the elements of speaking. Then, when I knew that I was naturally a fast speaker, I explored and I understood that pauses are really important. So that's what I tell people also. Explore storytelling, explore active listening, explore the art of asking questions. So when they start exploring, start refining the natural style. So now that I understand how pauses are important, I make it a practice that before I make an important statement, I pause. I pause and look at everyone. So everyone knows that this person is going to make an important point. Or if after I make, I pause and look at everyone so that it sinks in deep. Or if I have to talk fast and get that adrenaline rush of people, you know what I'm going to talk today? So then people will understand that there is something coming, that adrenaline rush will get in them. So these are certain exploration that we will have to do and try and bring it forward when it is important. For example, I just mentioned about pauses where I was a natural speaker. Then I made it a part of my speech so that it lands well, people understand, and I don't rush up really well. So going back to the topic, one is to understand what kind of a natural speaker that you are. Next is to explore key elements of communication, various styles in public speaking, and then continue to refine. And how do we put all of this in place? The vehicle to do is to actually join any communication platform. There's Toastmasters, there's Udly and artificial intelligence, where you can continue to practice. And second thing is to get feedback by the peers or the artificial intelligent tools that we have handy right now, to get the feedback and continue to refine. So these are two things that I would highly recommend for people who are aspiring to refine their communication process.
So you talk of a style. So is there something which is the best style, or situationally and depending on the, I would say, the mindset of the person or his background, there's nothing like the perfect style. I think you just change your style depending on the situation.
Hmm. Could you please repeat that?
So what I'm saying is, so let's say I have a particular style in which I speak. Is that the perfect style for me, or is there anything else? Or there is no such thing as a perfect style, and the style could change depending on the situation where you're speaking.
That's a brilliant question. So, natural style is for us to understand where we are when we are starting or at which stage that we are. For me, also, there is a natural style currently. That's neither a perfect style I would say continue to refine, and that is going to be a perfect style. But what is essential? Why do I say natural style is that becomes your authentic style as well. There are certain people who make loud body language, and there are people who restrict their body language because certain people want to appear very dynamic. They are very dynamic as a personality. Certain people are very graceful and they would like to keep it very soft and subtle. So, understanding where you are as a person is very essential because that's your unique style. And the next is to explore various key elements of public speaking when it comes to stage usage, and try and keep refining your stage, your natural self is to become more refined as a speaker. And also, you decide what kind of a speaker that you would like to be. Right. I'm a graceful speaker. Somebody could be a very dynamic speaker. So then you understand your style and then refine. The second question that you asked is about adaptability. And yes, that's very important when it comes to communication. Not always your one style works. So understanding, and when you are exploring, you will understand if I have to be, if I'm a natural speaker and an elegant speaker, if I'm going to be addressing 1,000 number of people in the audience, will elegance work? I'm sure their dynamic leadership or dynamic speaker profile will work. So then is where whatever we have explored, bringing up more of dynamic aspect of your speaking profile, making more elaborate gestures, using that stage usage elaborately will help us stand out. So, two things. One is understanding natural style. Second is to learn and explore various speaking key elements, and to adapt and keep refining is essential.
Fine, thanks. So, in PACI, we had mentorship sessions, and in one of the mentorship sessions we had taken up was we were working on something called the speaker maturity curve, like you said, the levels. So we took the 4 or 5 levels. So based on some 15 parameters on which we rated a speaker as into various sub points, and then on the score, is he at a level 1 where he's a beginner, level 2 where he is somebody who's aware as what uh, quality speaking is, on maybe level 3 where he is a good work in progress. Maybe
Mm.
I'm not giving the names right. Level 4 where he is a quality speaker, and level 5 where
Wonderful.
he is a master. So something on that scale we had done, and maybe I would like you also to have a look at that, and maybe we could refine it and get it out at PSA at some point of time.
Absolutely.
So one is adaptability, is more which you said earlier was by listening. One, because once you listen to who the crowd is and what's there, maybe even the emotions, what's there within them, I think you would be able to communicate better in a
Better.
particular style. Now, one point also we were speaking on strategy is speaking on your niche. Is
Yes.
and the second is there's a lot of things which is going on in communication, is communication through storytelling. Again, are both of these overrated?
Great. So thanks for that question. First, let me talk about niche. What I really understand and believe as a concept is a mile wide and an inch deep. And when it comes to any expertise on any topic, being on the mile wide, meaning understanding a diverse of topics or a broader knowledge on your subject area is very essential. And then going an inch wide, inch deep is really important because that's where the specialization of a person truly stands out. And that's exactly what niche also talks about. Niche is the specialized expertise of a person. So what I really think about niche, when we hear a lot about niche in the speaking industry, and it's quite important because there's million other topics when we are talking about that mile wide, the breadth of topics that we could have, but it's essential as a person to have a niche, which is a specialized area, truly, because that's what will make a person appear more credential, because they build their expertise and they create content around it. The authenticity that a person will carry when they have a super defined niche, and the reputation that a person will have. So these are important when we are talking about niche. So in my opinion, having a niche is really important, as much as that we overemphasize in the industry. So for me, it's always important. What I would also like to add on to niche when we talk about is the passion that we all get driven. So that's the self motivation that comes in, about the topic that we are super interested in as a niche. So these are two, niche and passion goes hand in hand. And in my opinion, it is really required as niche. The second question was your storytelling. And of course, a lot of us have been talking about storytelling, and the overemphasis in emphasis, in my opinion, is really important, because we cannot take away stories from our lives, right? As much as I date back to my childhood, I remember the story that my grandmom had told. So you also would resonate if I say that, right? We are all made of that stories from our grandparents and parents. And it has been an excellent tool, or a vital tool for human beings, because stories are the ones which resonate with us, the ones that we deeply carry for years together, and that used to help us internalize a message. And that's super important. And if I have to think about my values all came from the stories that my grandmom had told. And it's like the fundamentals of me. And as a speaker, it is essential that we are all also storytellers, and how effectively we tell our stories is how impactful we are as a speaker. And there are various techniques, various strategies that people talk about, and I'm sure this is again a topic where we keep refining
Yeah,
our
we can.
storytelling, and we go
So,
a long way there.
so I come from while I take it, and I truly agree that niche is an in-depth, extreme depth, I would say, going right as a scavenger to the root, fundamentally know why it happens, right? Peeling the last layers of the onions and going there. And storytelling, story showing, story curating, whatever you can add to that story, I think that really works well. My point is, at some time, which the audience perceives, and I also perceived, when somebody is speaking on a niche, it becomes too repetitive. Okay, I've
Hmm.
heard this multiple times. Just give me a break, give me something else. And maybe in story showing or storytelling, where and while the stories would all be different, if you are so not the first speaker, you are the last speaker, and all five have told stories. And then as the sixth speaker, you again have your own stories, and you keep on repeating stories. There's nothing unique you're bringing out, though the story is different and unique. So maybe at that point of time, the adaptability would definitely come in. And somewhere as a speaker, as you said, the other techniques which would come in, of maybe asking questions or going in a conversational mode, or asking them to tell stories, and then you giving a center, whatever is I think the way you, after listening to the audience, or learning their, understanding their emotions or that mindset, go about. So any views on
Sir, I
that? Where?
actually understand. One point just to add, I
Yeah.
actually understand the point that you're making. So what has happened is storytelling has been overemphasized as well. I'm with you, right with you when you say that. Everybody goes on the stage and it becomes a storytelling session.
Yes.
But what essentially it has to be is that storytelling is a vehicle or a tool where you carry your message effortlessly. How do you
Agree.
simplify a complex topic? And through storytelling, I agree. Sometimes what happens, it becomes a storytelling session. To all the speakers out there, my only a wish that I wanted to communicate is that, while storytelling is essential, let us use storytelling as a tool to convey the message, clear message that we would like to convey.
So again, before I throw this up, my last two questions to the audience. One is, how do I compete effectively now as somebody who's just in his journey of speaking with somebody as good maybe as a Kavina or a Tanvi or Mr. Harish Mehta? How do I compete with these guys?
Great. So how I believe the stage is that the stage is large enough to hold a lot of speakers, and it's essentially building on the uniqueness as a speaker that we are. And when I say uniqueness, every person is unique because of the background, their qualifications, their expertise, their life journey, how it has transpired into their perceptions, and the stories that they carry in their lives. So by all of this, every person is very unique, and that stands out as a unique speaker on the stage. So that's like no competition, but everybody out there is different in their different skills. Second thing, to answer your question, sir, how do we be that one speaker, right, to be impactful, influence, and all of that, is to do a lot of homework and research to keep themselves abreast of what's happening in their particular area, and to use their knowledge effectively to convey the message to people. And third thing, which I always resonate, is when we are on stage as a speaker, audience experience is what it matters. Any speech starts with audience and end with audience. As a speaker, if you're able, if we could make the audience resonate with us and inspire them to take actions, I think there we stand as a speaker, true speaker.
So you're talking now of AX, which is audience experience, and that was a point which in PSS 24 once global speaker had brought out, and he was actually as a professional speaker, apart from a backup team who would do his research for him, apart from whatever simulations he would do or practice, he also had a director who used to direct how he used to perform. So maybe after 10 takes or 11 take, maybe he used to go on stage after priming himself and do the 12 takes. So it was that professional. So the experience you give out is so deeply practiced and rehearsed that it's just flows, that it's coming out so naturally. So
True.
for commonplace individuals like us, how do we enhance the audience experience? And any hacks you could add?
Absolutely, sir. So, to me, when we are a speaker and we are going to destined to be on the stage, as I said, everything starts with the audience and end with the audience. So, I generally follow something called a CSD. The first one is the content, the next is structure, and then the delivery. So, when it talks about content, the first thing, the primary thing that we all have to think about is who is that audience who is going to be there on what is the demographics, what is that something that they would like to hear, what are their pain points, what are their winning topics. So these are certain questions, if we start with and understand who is that audience, that will help us effectively shape our speaking journey. And then, to clearly give out a message, what message should I give for this particular audience? So it starts with the content, to tailor it for the audience that we have. The second thing is to structure. Again, in the structure, it's generally that opening body and feature. That's pretty much that all of us know. But what do I how do I start a topic which will hook this particular audience, which will keep them engaged with me through the next or body and closure? So this is something that we curate as a speaker, and structure our content in a way that it will be resonating with the audience. And when it comes to the body of the content, what are the stories that will resonate with them? Because there are stories which I could tell a child which will not resonate with adults. And again, in adults, there are different demographics of audience that we will have. What will resonate with which people, right? There could be women entrepreneurs, there could be professional speakers in the audience, or there could be corporate professionals. So whom are we addressing, and what kind of a story which will resonate with them, and how should I message, crystallize the message to them? And closing, again, giving examples which will inspire them to take action. One thing as a speaker that I truly believe is, once you're done as your speech, who is that person? Will your audience be able to take action on what you have spoken? If that happens, then you are a true speaker. That's exactly what I do in my speeches. I ask this question to me: does it inspire action? If you're a wellness speaker, do they get on their yoga mat the next day? Right? If I'm talking about communication, do they get to join a communication club the next day? Do they sign up? So how are we able to inspire actions in audience is very important. And the last one, which comes to delivery part, which I predominantly talk about: plan and practice, and plan, prepare and practice. First is to actually plan, how am I going to talk? So I just wanted to give out this example of Steve Jobs, one of the great corporate speaker. So what he does is, 1 month ahead of his speech, he is going to plan his entire calendar, and he is going to carve out time for the rehearsals of his speech. Can we all believe such a great storyteller or a corporate speaker taking out 1 month just to planning for 1 month just to rehearse? So that's how important practice is, how important it is to understand and recreate your stories multiple times, so that when you are on that stage, you're naturally flowing in your elements. So that's practice. And the third thing is the final presentation. When it comes to final presentation, all I think about is audience experience. How are they resonating? Are they resonating? While I talk, I look at audience. Are they resonating? Are they smiling? For the times when I want them to deeply think, are they deeply thinking, or on are they on their phones? How do I tap their attention? Did I start my story in a way that they are in the story? Because when they are in the story, they are going to show that Navar is on their face. They are sad when you have a sad part, and then when you are going to give them the cure of the problems that you have got through, and this is what is coming as a message, are they empowered? Are they thrilled to hear? So these are certain things that I keep noting down about my audience. Are they resonating? How is their body language? And that truly comprises of audience experience for me. It starts from the beginning and it ends till the presentation, and later on as a feedback as well. So it's just woven all across various stages of speech.
Great. So our mentor used to tell us that if you're not got a repeat invite, I think you need to reflect or introspect that you were not enough somewhere. So that was one. The second is
Absolutely.
when you said about, has somebody taken action? Now, this is something where I'm yet to get a conclusive answer. When people have not taken action, is it meaning that you were really not impactful? Because normally people will never take action. The moment they step out of the room, they're back into their own routine life, and maybe 90% of the people will be where they are. Maybe even if a few have taken action, I think a lot of speakers or a lot of motivational coaches, trainers think they've done their job. So maybe one, what is that percentage at which you should be happy that yes, you were impactful? Or then what you should go back to do back again at the drawing board to refine your skills to maybe make that impact?
Absolutely. To the question on what percentage is a successful number, that a person, the percentage of your audience is going to be inspired by your action. I generally, through feedback, when anybody comes backstage and tells me that, hey, it was impactful, my only question is, what are you going to do next? And at times, people have come back to me later on and told, Kavina, you remember you spoke about this. I have taken action on this particular topic. So that, for me, even a handful of them come back and tell me that this is being taken care of, or I've initiated an action. I think that's a success story in itself, because there are too many people out there who just simply come. We don't know what are their intentions to actually be walking in. But if you're able to inspire a handful of people, I think that's success as a speaker on stage. I heard this few years back, and it deeply resonates with me. They say, if a person in the audience is sleeping, then wake up the speaker. So that's the level of, uh, you know, the emotions of an audience is tied up to the emotions of the speaker. So I deeply resonate with this particular statement, and I always take it as my stance that if they have to be inspired, then I will have to be ready to inspire them. The next question to answer, sir, you asked about going back to the drawing board. I believe, irrespective of how many number of people get inspired and take action, I think as a speaker, we always have to go back to the drawing board after every single speech, and that's the journey of a speaker. I believe, and that's when we have mentors, we have organizations like PSAI, where we go back and share the recording if they are not there and ask for that feedback. Hey, how could I be more impactful? How could I have done better? And every single time it is going back to the drawing board and refining our skills better and better.
Sure, thanks. And I will borrow that quote with your permission that if the
Absolutely.
audience is sleeping, then you need to wake up the speaker. I think
Speaker,
that was
yes.
that was something which I'll remember for a very long, long time and maybe use it. So again, at this point of time, I would like to involve the audiences. Do they have any view on what should be the percentage when a speaker post the speech feel he's been successful? So at times, what happens is uh, there is something which I perceive that I've done a great speech. So maybe when I talk of the P's, is the the first P is the potential I have. Then the second is the one I prepare for. Based on my potential, I would prepare for. The second is one which I would actually perform on stage. And there'll be something else which I'll perceive that, okay, yes, based on my potential and my practice and my performance, I did a great job. I'm happy. I really don't know what the audience perceives. So basically, my perception and the audience perception is something different. The second is, unless you are really bad, I think nobody will say you were bad, but they would give you a bad feedback. So at a lot of times, in a lot of ways, they take the feedback where the feedback is also pretty mediocre. And the questions which they are asked, the audience just doesn't know what it means. So the feedback just doesn't matter in the sense for the speaker. But overall, a cumulative score based on whatever is is what impacts the audience's perceptions to the speaker getting an invite next time or not. Now, in this case, your perception may be great about yourself, but somehow the audience's perception may be something different. Has this happened to anyone, and how would you tend to minimize that?
Absolutely. So, what I feel is the audience perception, if it is different from that, what we are thinking, I think the evaluation is what will really help us. Sometimes, even the feedback that we receive after the speaking engagement, if it's vastly different, the gap is vastly different from where we are as a speaker, what we self perceive to what we have gotten as a feedback, the evaluation really helps because the kind of audience that we have and what is their perception about speaking could be very different. So evaluating why did they arrive at a score like that, and why, how do I rate myself? Sometimes it could be that I have rated myself too well, I thought I really did too well, but the score could have been very less. But evaluating, trying to understand, probably pick selective few or talk to the moderator or facilitator and try and understand why this could have come, or if there have been a qualitative feedback collected as well going through, because evaluation is the only one which could fill the gap. And after evaluation, I truly think if I will have to change as a speaker, maybe as a speaker, I don't fit in into this particular category to be spoken of. Or I should think, okay, if this category of audience is who is my potential audience future, then I'm sure I would be working on where my self perception is and come to reality that, okay, this is where I stand and make that mapping internally. But as a speaker, for me, how did it go for that particular speaking engagement? There's basically three, based out of three criteria. One is I continue to gauge the audience reactions. Are they smiling when I'm smiling? Are they sad when I'm sad? Do they feel empowered when I am empowered to deliver a conclusion? So if they resonate with all the emotions that I have on the stage, I feel that is a good speech for me. If I crack a joke and they don't understand, liking is also okay. If they don't understand, I'm like, okay, fine, that's a bad thing that I've done. So that's a instant feedback that keeps going on, that there's one part of my brain which is continuously working as to how are they able to understand. For example, I was to talk at Forum Mall in Bangalore on women hygiene. I started speaking and nobody was responding. There were a handful of school students, and nobody was understand. Nobody were responding to any of it. I was cracking joke. I was speaking about film stars. No change at all in their reactions. And then I paused. I asked them, "What's happening? Am I making sense?" Is when they told me that they don't understand so much of English. And that is when I diluted my English and made it very easy for them to understand. I got one person who was MOCing, hosting that entire show. I said, "Hey, can you join me? Can you translate more Kannada?" And we made it a show. And then after it picked up, they started smiling. Then I made it broken English. They were able to understand it better. That was an NGO program that we were conducting at Forum Mall. So, continuously engaging with their emotions and reactions is one. Second thing is, of course, the feedback that you mentioned. And if possible, having qualitative feedback more than quantitative feedback, because quantitative is going to talk about only the numbers. What happens behind their mind? How do they want this to be better tailored for them? Having quantitative feedback helps. And the third one, which is the most essential one, is, are we having better speaking engagements after it? And that becomes a true indicator of how are we doing and performing as a speaker. So these are three things that I generally think about when I'm getting on the stage. I hope it helped.
Thanks. And that was my last question, and I truly resonate with that. So one is when you say if you're smiling, does the audience smile with you? If you're sad, do they feel sad? And if you are empowering them with a punch, do they really feel empowered? I think that's great to take. And similar experience when I had spoken somewhere, and at the end, a lot of people came to me. You spoke really well, but we didn't understand what you said. You spoke in English. So I said, then what did you understand? How are you saying I spoke well? He said, no, you used a lot of good English words. I said, you don't understand it, and you still say I was good. Then somebody said, no, I knew you would speak in English, so I got a translator. The translator has told us that you were good. So I think you get such.
We all have those instances in our speaking
I think
journey.
the
I've had
organizers don't communicate with you properly, that the audience doesn't. And so I make it a point to get the profile of the audience, know whether they are speaking in English or whether I should speak in Minglish or Hinglish or whatever, or in the local Marathi language or Hindi or whatever. So I think at times we make assumptions, and assumptions are the mother of all goof ups. So even for
true.
experienced speakers, at times it happens, we take things for granted. So thanks, Kavina. We had a conversation almost over 55 minutes. Any questions from the audience or any additions which anyone would like to make?
Would love to have questions coming in.
So generally we have Sandhya giving her insights. We have Amit with his questions, Harish with his two words of wisdom, Tanvi with her advice. Anyone?
I have Miss Sona. Do you have any questions?
You can unmute.
I saw your hands up.
You're muted. You're muted.
If you're mute, yeah.
That's good. I couldn't find how to raise my hand up in the icons down below, so I raised it literally here. So hello, it was lovely joining you all. And Abhijit, it was nice hearing the session today. My first session in your this thing.
Yeah.
Podcast. So yeah, I totally agree to what you've said. Is it? Am I pronouncing it right, Kavina?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Yeah. So I totally agree to what you say. And actually, this niche point is a big issue also. Like, uh, like you can't be jack of all trades and master of none. Okay. But then being master of something and not knowing the other things is also not done when you're on the stage. So, like when I speak on mental health, like it covers round about everything. Like it covers the mental health of the people, emotional, psychological, it covers their communication, it covers everything. So there's so much of things to talk about. But then you can't, you can't combine everything in that short of span of time and talk of everything. So you have to pick up something. But what I generally do is what I liked and what I feel works for me. I make it I just introduce the topic and I make it sort of more interactive. So that stops people from napping one. Like they want to ask or they want to share something. So what I feel is our brain, we have a one period class, this thing 40-45 minutes to 50 minutes. So that is how much our brain is active, and then we need a break. So if we constantly keep talking for those 45 minutes, people, even in a class, the students start, getting restless. So people do get restless, no matter how interesting it is, no matter out of force. If they're sitting. So I feel if you make it interactive a little bit earlier, and and you have the knowledge of answering whatever they are asking, that is more important than just speaking on one niche to address the issues that they are asking. That keeps them. That is what I feel works for me.
Absolutely, ma'am. Again, it's the same concept of that, having a broad expertise on the subject matter and also a deep expertise on one particular topic is essential, because that's when you answer the questions, or making it interactive helps. That is, expertise comes from the broader knowledge, subject knowledge that we have. Second thing is that passion that we are talking about. If you look at Simon Sinek also, right? He has a combination of motivational speaking plus leadership. If we look at his niche is about leadership and about organizational culture and driving change. But he is very much passionate about inspiring people, workplace culture. So he's put balanced or integrated both his niche and his passion, and he's made it like a super duper combination. So I believe having an understanding on our niche and our expertise on a broader sense, and what we are passionate, and culminating all of that together, and that is a uniqueness that we bring to the stage as well.
Can I can
Thanks,
I
Sonali.
can I ask one more question? I mean, it keeps bothering me that like even when I'm there, in a parenting session or in any other session or in a leadership session, a lot of um, a lot of Western speakers and videos come to be given an example of. I don't know, but I feel that okay, fine, we are good enough too. Like a lot of people will always cite Tony Robbins. They'll always cite, like you
Steve
cited
Jobs.
Simon. So
Thank
is it essential? I mean, is it needed that we, like, Western parenting videos are totally a no-no in India. They talk of things
Absolutely.
which don't happen here. But we are so much into it, we are so much influenced by it that we are messing up our parenting also. So somehow I feel we should
Absolutely.
draw a line. I mean, we are
Yes.
too. I feel I don't like to cite these examples. I would rather cite Kavina and Abhijit
So I
rather than
always,
Tony
so in
Robbins.
your, so one is I don't cite any foreign
Yeah,
speakers at all. So
that,
no Steve Jobs, no Will Smith, no
yeah,
In Pursuit of Happiness for me. So if I were to
absolutely.
quote, maybe I'll quote Harish. If you know what
Yeah,
you know and what you want to know, I think I don't want to say that let Harish say it. He's on screen. Or maybe
yeah,
when you said, I just remembered jack of all trades. It's not that you should be a jack of all trades, but
yeah,
jack of all, instead of jack of all trades, be a king or queen of some of the trades from
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and maybe be an emperor or an empress of maybe two
Some-
or three from that king or queen trade. So
Correct,
that's can be for you. So
correct.
you'll have each one, and maybe if you are sleeping, if audience is sleeping, then maybe it's time for you to sleep. I think that's Kavina for you. So maybe you should quote our local speakers and give them. So you should quote your PACI fellow speakers, then quoting a
Correct.
Steve.
Absolutely. I'm just wondering if all of us know each other. That's the only thing. So for
So
me,
that's
giving
that's
examples
that's
is
what that's what I said, because it's PSS 25 is the only event where all of us would be coming in one room. Otherwise, we
Mhm.
only meet virtually. So that's something which I always say, it's something not to be missed. It's because if you miss, you really don't know what you have missed. And
Absolutely.
I would not go to again hard sell or say it again. I sensitized people enough. So if
I'm
they
looking
miss out, I
forward
think
for PSS 2025. I'm going to meet everyone for the very first time. Super
sure.
excited for that.
Thanks. Any questions or we wind up? Harish, आपको final last words आपके तो सुनने ही है हमको यार.
Thank you, Abhijit. When I was listening to Sona, she said, we relate to people from outside India. I ask you a question, why do you do that?
The question
And
on
in
why do
case
we
you
quote?
don't have a strong, why do you do that quoting somebody from outside India, whether it's Simon Sinek or it is Tony Robbins? Get familiar with your own territory. Engage more with the people in your surroundings.
Correct.
And share the wealth of wisdom that they carry rather than keep carrying something which is unknown to most.
Correct.
And when it's unknown to most, why bother to speak?
Absolutely.
So my question here is, are you here to make an impact of your story? Then make your story so beautiful that it has an impact as soon as you finish narrating your story. And when you practice your story hard, it comes easily. It's very important to have those moments cherished, locked up in a bottle, and open it out to people when you want to narrate your story. Remember, each one of us has a great story to share, our own personal story to make an impact. And when you do it over and over and over again, that becomes your story for the people. When I was speaking, Abhijit was saying my favorite quote, which I would like to narrate here for all of you to remember. In life, you get what you want when you know what you want. And when you know what you want well enough, it is waiting to happen. People call it a miracle. I call it the new normal. Now, he's been talking about this for maybe last 6 to 9 months. Now, I own this quote. Similarly, each one of you, when you keep sharing in your story 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quotes, it becomes your quote. And you are no less than Tony or anyone else on this planet Earth, because you were born to make a difference. And if you are making a difference, you need to share that difference with the world. So, Sona, I see you have been coming to this PSAI network, and I see you strongly willing to share your story. And I want you to make an impact at the first attempt. So practice hard, and we are waiting to hear your story.
Very
That's
beautifully
my
said, sir.
story, and I'm sticking to it.
So I agree with
Thank
Harish
you.
because when I was to make a presentation once on certain things, and I felt at that point of time I needed to put a video somewhere to give a different break to the audience. I took the video from RP. So I took a video. I asked Tanvi to make a video and share it. So I would obviously do it from my fellow speaking community member and give him the necessary mileage and respect, then getting somebody out. So I firmly stand by that. So, and maybe that's, I believe, a useful technique which we all of us should do is get quotes, get videos from people in their area of experience and substantial in-depth knowledge and share it.
Correct.
Absolutely. And it is also empowering our fellow members and knowing their journey and bringing their examples forward. I love this whole
Create your own circle of
concept.
influence. That's the story.
Mm,
Create
that's
your own
lovely.
circle of influence be it in Bangalore, be it in Mumbai, be it in Delhi, and Ram Prasad is listening, and he's going to share this quote somewhere, sometime, very soon, I promise you. So create that circle of influence at PSAI is my small request. And at Bloom World, you have another story to share. Those 220 odd episodes, each one had shared a story. So it's important for us to recall and give them that positioning that they deserve. Thank you, Kavina. Looking forward to see you soon. And Mumbai is waiting for you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, sir, for adding.
So Eric Martin, who's here, his quote, over-promise and over-deliver. So he says, don't under-promise and over-deliver. Over-promise and deliver even more than what you've over-promised. That's something which I take from him. And when I use that, I always quote him. So obviously, you need to be with integrity to quote the person whose quote it is. You can't just pass it off as your quote.
Yeah.
So Brigadier is not here. He has one term which he calls ROTI, return on time investment, time invested. So we use that very often, quoting him. So each one has his own powerful quote which can be used. Yeah, thanks. Any questions or we wind up?
Yeah, Abhijit, we have a question on the chat.
Okay, let me see that. So what is the question? Can you read it? I'm not seeing anything.
If the judges in the audience have different parameters other than you specified to decide your quality of talking, then how we have to react? Even if we are experts, the judge in front may undergrade. How to face this situation? Yeah.
So is the question that the judges have rated us differently? Maybe the judges have rated us badly while the audience has given us a high rating. So how do you go about it? Is the question? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this question, since there is the word judge, it's coming from the context of having a contest or a competition. And if the judges and audience have different parameters other than specified to decide your quality of talking, then how you have to react. Even if we are experts, the judges in front may undergrade how to face this situation. Taking it in the context of competition or a contest, when we are going out as a contestants, our first job is to look at what is the ballot sheet looking like, what are the parameters that they are going to grade us on. And in case if we see that which is not there as a parameter in the ballot sheet or the grading sheet and it comes separately from the judges, I feel talking to them and not understanding, but talking to them and telling that, hey, let's stick with the ballot sheet. I think that should do. Because in Toastmasters also we have the ballot sheet which is already available. In case there is any discrepancy in the grading, then we take it with the necessary officials. I hope that answers MK Sanzgiri. Since I read judges, I assumed it is the competition.
Yes, I would think so. Because obviously the judges would have a different level of understanding because of their maturity. They would see from their perspective. When you are speaking to the audience, you're not speaking to the judges. So while I would take their feedback also seriously for improvement, I think I look at the larger good, which is the audience. This is whom I'm going to address. I'm not going to address the judges. If I were to address the judges and would have got great claps from them, but the audience would be booing, who's in much larger numbers. Obviously, it's the worst of situation. So I would prefer playing to the galleries. That's the audience. Though I would like to have a win-win and balance both. But in case such a situation happens, then but finally when I'm speaking to the audience, so I'll be playing to the gallery. I will not be playing to the front seat who's rating me. Whatever happens. So I'm speaking for the process of enjoying and for the process that the audience gets value for money. Not that the judges gives me a medal or gives me a trophy. So that's my view and my answer.
Abhijit,
Yeah.
Abhijit, I would like to share those 4 words again here at the cost of repetition. D for discover, I for inspire, S for surprised, and take it to your heart is the 4 words that you need to remember when you're giving to people the message you were born to give. They need to discover, they need to be inspired, they need to be surprised that this happened with you. And then finally, they need to take it to your heart so that they remember that someday, sometime, I heard this speaker in my life. That's the impact you need to create. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank
So
you, sir.
I get this feedback many times from my students. After even 20 years, they said you had told this 20 years back. And at that time, I had not taken it seriously. But I wish I would have. It would have made a huge difference to my career. But at least he's, I think, great enough to recognize that and give the feedback. So yes, it
Absolutely.
is always good. So I like that element of surprise, which you say. Yes, a good speaker should always catch the audience at times by surprise.
True.
Any words, Tanvi, you would like to say? You're there?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you, Abhijit. I had a very interesting hour listening to Kavina and a very beautifully moderated session. I have to give that to you. Kudos to that. I just want to maybe wrap it up by repeating something I always say that don't be obsessed, foolishly obsessed about a niche and focus on becoming a category creator. The reason we are constantly seeking leaders, experts, speakers from the West is because we are seeing thought leadership elements in their content, which is gravely missing in our own ecosystem today. So while it's a brilliant strategy in the beginning of your career to be an inch wide and mile deep in terms of your content expertise, but to be a speaker you also need to have a multidimensional school of thought coming together to be a truly extraordinary speaker, or else you're just another expert who knows the subject matter in and out. But to be a speaker beyond excellence, you really need to bring in multidimensional schools of thoughts, have different perspectives on the topic, and those different perspectives come in when you choose to even go mile wide and connect ideas from diverse schools of thoughts which nobody would have considered bringing together and weaving together as a part of the storyline that you're putting together. So this is my 2 cents as we wrap up today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Tanvi.
Kavina,
Yes.
for your time. I think we were well past our scheduled time of 1:30, and I think it's time to break for lunch. And we'll continue with the next Sunday, a 226th episode with a new speaker, with new thoughts, new ideas. And I think proximity to quality thought leadership is real power, and this has helped me a lot. So I think this 225 sessions of Bloom, I would have attended about close to 200 of them. So whatever I have learned, or a lot of sessions which I attend in PACI, and whatever is the knowledge which is basically imbibed, I think when I speak, some of them just comes out as my wisdom with the right people quoted. I think that's the greatest impact it has had on me. Thank you all of you for
Thank you
joining
very
us
much.
this Sunday, and looking forward to you joining us again next Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you then. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a
Thanks,
nice time.
everybody.
Thank you, and bye.
Aaj for a change, Eric, you were silent.
No, because everything that needed to be said was